The Rosicrucian Path is the journey of the mystic. Few souls brave it at any single time. Yet, it is this internal voyage that has rewarded many of our greatest minds with the ability to enrich the world. But it is a pilgrimage each individual must travel in their own time, for it reveals the path of knowing. It transcends time and space. This path of the Rosicrucian reveals higher truths for personal evolution. You are invited to witness its sacred history. Gnosticism is another important tradition contributing to what would centuries later become Rosicrucianism. The various groups that we call Gnostics today emphasize the individual coming to personal and interior experiential knowledge, gnosis, of the transcendent divine one, which is our ultimate source and goal. In truth, the many forms of Gnosticism that manifested first among various Christian groups in the first few centuries of our era were characterized by the interior quest for divine knowledge. It was a term used to describe many early groups of Christian mystics, many of whom had adopted lifestyles seeking inner truth. The word gnosis is usually translated from the Greek as experiential knowledge, as opposed to simple factual knowledge. At the core of this tradition was the idea of connecting with the divine directly, without the need for priests, rabbis, or any other religious intermediary. The idea of connecting with knowledge without any need for a gatekeeper to the divine is a familiar theme found in other mystery schools, which manifest in Rosicrucian studies and practice. The Gnostic revealer discloses knowledge that frees and awakens people and that helps them recall who they are. When enlightened, Gnostics can live a life appropriate for those who know themselves and God, the divine. They can return back to the beginning when they were one with God, the divine. Such a life transcends what is mundane and mortal in this world and experiences the bliss of oneness with the divine. From its origins in Persia, the Near East, and Egypt, due to almost continuous persecutions, the Gnostic path moved from what is now Bulgaria to the Caucasus Mountains from the 7th through 10th centuries, then across northern Italy into the Languedoc area of southern France, around Toulouse, Foix, Carcassonne in the 12th to 14th centuries. It is from the Cathars, from the Greek katharos or pure, that the Rosicrucian tradition of today finds its closest link to Gnosticism.
These mystics allowed equality for women and men and encouraged understanding and dialogue between all faiths. They also provided excellent education for their members. All these values are highly cherished by modern Rosicrucians.
These mystics allowed equal rights for women and men, encouraged understanding and dialogue between all faiths, and provided excellent education for their members, all values that are to this day highly cherished by Rosicrucians. Gnostics sought wisdom and knowledge from varied sources. Marvin Meyer, PhD, another one of the world's leading scholars on Gnosticism, noted that, in addition to Jewish sacred literature, Christian documents, and Greco-Roman religious and philosophical texts, Gnostics studied religious works from the Egyptians, Mesopotamians, Zoroastrians, Muslims, and Buddhists. All such sacred texts disclose truths, and all were to be celebrated for this wisdom. According to the Rosicrucian text, the Positio Fraternitatis Rosae Crucis, we believe that the desire to know the divine laws, that is natural, universal, and spiritual laws, will eventually supplant the need just to believe in God or the divine. We assume, therefore, that belief will one day give way to knowledge. Plato's influence on Western culture far exceeds that than any other philosopher in history. But Neoplatonism is a relatively modern term that mid-19th century scholars created to distinguish the ideas of later Greek and Roman Platonists from those of Plato himself. Neoplatonists merged the approaches of Plato, Aristotle, Pythagoras, and others, addressing the individual yearning for salvation from a philosophical viewpoint. Neoplatonism posits a single source, the One, from which all existence emanates and with which an individual soul can be mystically united. The philosophical school provided ways that the individual could ascend the ladder of being through theoria, which is contemplation of the divine. Throughout history, some of the most remarkable philosophers and writers have been associated with Neoplatonic thought. Plotinus, Proclus, Augustine of Hippo, Paracelsus, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and Ralph Waldo Emerson were just a few of these. Many philosophers refer to mysticism as being either a religious tendency and desire of the human soul towards an intimate union with the divinity, or as a system growing out of such a tendency and desire. While it is clear that mysticism implies a relationship to mystery, it is widely accepted that mystical contemplation and spiritual expression can take place both inside and outside the realm of religious belief and religious dogma. Western religious mystics are very careful in the way they express their experience of the union with the ultimate source of reality because of popular misunderstanding of some forms of Western Christian theology, which insists that human beings never literally become God or the divine, although it is actually a part of Western Christian tradition that humans become partakers of the divine life. On the other hand, Eastern Christian and mystics of other traditions often describe the ultimate state of their spiritual experience as involving complete physical and sensory union with what we might call cosmic consciousness, or as they would put it, the divine. This is known as theosis or divinization in Eastern Christian thought. Mystical experiences are shaped by the context of beliefs within culture and tradition. All mystical experiences, therefore, vary somewhat.
Mysticism itself is the search for inner truth, for a realization of God within your being. Mysticism says it's a personal search.
Each is unique, but the uniqueness does not diminish or negate the claim for transcendence or touching ultimate reality, despite the fact that the mystical experience itself is in part a function of what the mystic understands can happen. While some exoteric religions seem to keep their direct connection firmly in the hands of a priesthood or appointed leadership, it should not be surprising that nonetheless, mysticism arises in almost all world religious traditions. The divine is also commonly called the One, which in essence lives in all things. This means that the deepest self of an individual is identical with the absolute, the infinite, unchanging, and all-powerful universal constant, God. As Rosicrucians, we recognize that the final goal of all mystical experience is connection with that divine infinity which lies beyond matter and mind, but which can transform them. The approach to this ultimate state is through the power of discriminating thought and purified emotions, and, as Henry Moore, one of the Cambridge Platonists, stressed, God reserves his choicest secrets for the purest minds.